This lecture is on the following question: how to get more motivation and self-discipline. And we experience here at MF that each year when we have evaluations, the students, they say 50% of the students say that they wish they had more self-discipline and more motivation to work harder. So how can one get more motivation and self-discipline? I've written a book on free will and motivation, so I've read some brain research on what motivates us and what are the different reward centers in the brain and so on. And I've read some psychological research on this topic, so I'm going to share some of this with you now. One can think that it's important that I boost my motivation or my willpower, will strength, and so on, but that is quite difficult and not so very efficient. Actually, there are different techniques that are quite easy and simple that are much more efficient at getting you to get the work done that you want done. So I'm going to tell you about some of these techniques now, and that's actually good news then, because since it's much more difficult to change your character and suddenly get a lot stronger will and so on, it's good that these techniques exist. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is some research they did on motivation, where they gathered a large group and they had people who were professional motivators and so on to talk about, the first topic was training, exercise, workout and so on. They had this big lecture on how important it was, how good it is for your health, and you live longer and it's very important to work out and so on. And then they said, now you go and do this, go home, work out, and we'll see you again after a quite long period and ask how it's gone. But they divided the group in two. So one half, they were told, go home, start working out. And the other group, they were told, find your calendar, your schedule or what it is, and make appointments with yourself. Write down the different times of day, or when will you be doing this workout. And they did the same with another group of people, and it was women. It was about breast cancer, and that they should be checking themselves regularly to prevent breast cancer, and they were told how important this was and motivated in all different kinds of ways. And again, they divided the group in two. First half, go home, do this regularly, they were told. And the other half, then they said, find your calendar, make appointments, or write down the schedule. I'm going to do it then, and then. There's some concrete points or points of time. And what they found out was that those who wrote it down when they were supposed to do it, they did it a lot more often than those who were just going to do it sometime or another. And in a similar experiment with homeless people who were told to write an application for a job, then those who were told to make an appointment with themselves about when they were supposed to do this, 100% of them wrote this job application, and 0% of those who were just told to do that sometime in the future. So my first point then is make appointments, or a schedule, or make appointments. Write down in your calendar when you're supposed to write this paper, or do this assignment, or read this book, and so on. And it's a lot easier to do it. I know this from my own experience, that when if I just tell myself I have to clean the shed one day, I never do it. But if I write down I'll do it that day, then I actually get it done. Just yesterday I got a big job done that I've been postponing for a long time, but I had it in my schedule. I'll do this today. So write that down, and it's much easier to get it done. Another point which is related to this is that it's very good if you can make something into a habit. If you can, for instance, make it a habit that every Tuesday at 5 o'clock I go for a jog or something, then it's a lot easier to do that every Tuesday at 5 than if you tell yourself once a week I have to go jogging, but then each time you have to motivate yourself when you're sitting in the couch or something, I have to go out and jog now. And that's a lot more difficult than if it's just your habit or your regular schedule that every Tuesday at 5 I go jogging, even if it's raining and so on. Then it's a habit, your brain goes on autopilot and you just do it instead of having to actively engage yourself and motivate yourself to get it done. So when you make appointments, if this is about starting to read more, study more and so on, maybe you can say, okay, every day at 9 o'clock I start reading, or every day. If you can make it into a habit, then it's also easier to get it done. I'm going to talk also a bit about things that do give us more motivation and so on. And one thing is that we are motivated by success. If we feel that we succeed in doing things, then we get happy and we want to do it more. Whereas when we feel that we don't succeed, we get frustrated and we don't want to do it anymore. So one thing to do when you have work to do is to divide up into pieces and give yourself deadlines and put up some goals, and then get a boost when you feel that, oh right, I did it, I succeeded in this. It's a bit difficult because if your goal is too difficult and you don't reach it, then you get demotivated instead. Or if it's too easy, if you just say, I'm going to read one page and then I'm taking a holiday, then you don't get enough work done. So you need to find the right amount or the right level for your goal so that you have something to reach for and yet that you're able to succeed. This can also be combined with another point, which is divide. Divide your work into pieces, especially if you have something big that feels too big to start on, or this big fat book or this big paper or something. You don't get started because it's this big job. So it's much better if you then divide the job into pieces. Well, I'm going to read these pages, or I'm going to start writing just that. Or if you can divide the work into smaller pieces, it's a lot easier to start because you think, well, I can at least do that, and at least do that, and at least do that, and suddenly you're done. Instead of, I have to do this big thing. So divide your work into pieces, and it's easier to get started. Self-motivation. We are construed in that way that if we feel that we are the bosses of our own life, if we have decided to do something, we get a lot more motivated and feel a lot better when we do it than if we feel that someone else has told us to do this. This is a demand that's come from someone else. MF, they're telling me to do these assignments and read these books and so on. I don't want to do it. But if you feel that this is a study that I want to take, I want to learn this course and so on, then it's much easier to get it done. So you should actually, when you do courses, when you study here at MF, you should ask yourself, take some time and think, well, why do I take this course? Why do I study here? Maybe I want this job, I want to work with something interesting, I want to get well paid, or I want to be respected, or I want to contribute to society, or I want to do it good on this exam, I want to understand this topic and so on. If you have this list of things that makes you feel, I'm doing something that I want to do now, then it's a lot easier again to get it done. So make yourself such a list. Positive thinking. And I don't mean just think that you're pretty and your skin will be smooth and everything, or there are some strange, just think happy and you will be rich and so on. That's not what I'm talking about. But this is actually, again, positive psychology is a form of research, and it's used a lot in athletics and so on. When the athletes, they are thinking that they're winning and so on. And that also gives them a lot of, it makes them perform better, and it makes them more motivated to work harder. And it goes also for students and studies. One funny test that was done once was they took a group of people and divided them into 3, and they said to the first group, just don't do anything. And the other group, they were told do push-ups over a longer period. Then do no push-ups was group number 1. Do a lot of push-ups was group number 2. And group number 3, they were told think that you're doing push-ups. But don't do push-ups, but just think regularly that you're doing push-ups. And the first group, who hadn't been doing any push-ups, they weren't any better at doing push-ups at the end of this period. The group that had been doing push-ups, they were a lot better at doing push-ups. And the group that had been thinking that they were doing push-ups was also a lot better at doing push-ups than when they started. They were not as good as those who had actually taken push-ups or done push-ups, but at least they were a lot better than those who had done nothing. So just even thinking positively about this improved their skill. So positive thinking then in this regard is I can learn something good, I can pass on this exam, thinking positively about it will make it easier to get it done. Then, continuing the list here, blood sugar has been shown in many tests to improve motivation and will strength. It's much more difficult to get it done if you're hungry, if you feel, it's much more difficult to make the good decisions and so on. So if you have a big and difficult assignment in front of you, make sure that you've eaten and you're ready to get started. Then instead of being hungry, then after a short time you'll cut it out and you'll go eat instead. And then also self-force. Is something that one can do. You can force yourself into things or to doing things. We have the old in the Odyssey. Then we're told about this person who was, in order to stop going to the sirens, he tied himself to the mast. So he forced himself not to do this. But you can exert self-force in many different ways. So for instance, when I was a couple of years ago, I was going to run one Norwegian mile, 10 kilometers, and I told a lot of people about this, and I told about how fast I thought I was going to run and so on, and I thought, oh, they're all going to ask me afterwards. I have to do it well on this, and so I started running 10 kilometers every second day for months, and so I got a very good time also, so I could say, yeah, well, it went very well. So it was a kind of self-force, because I don't think I would have been running that much if it wasn't that I knew I've been telling a lot of people they will be asking me, so I have to do it well now. So, try to sum up. I think this is some of the most important things. A good example again about this writing up schedules and so on is again from my own life. I've seen now that before I used to look at some TV shows at regular times and so on, but then I got this box where you can record the TV shows and just look at them later. And what has happened is that I never see any shows anymore. I just postpone it indefinitely. And I think it's the same way with a lot of students. If you think, I can read these books later, I can watch some lectures online later and so on, you won't get it done. So you have to put it down in the schedule. Say, I'm going to go to lectures then, I'm going to read these and these books then and then. Make appointments with yourself, and best of all, make it into a habit. And then you will actually get it done. So that was a list of points, and I hope some of them can be of help. And that's what I had to say about motivation and self-discipline.